Talk Radio.
This thing right here is for my peoples in the streets.
Yes, today. All right, we want to welcome you to another episode of One Mic here on the Real Sports Guys platform. But as I always like to start, I'll let you know, please go to realsportsguys.com to catch all of our content. But we got a lot of good stuff that is coming up on that platform. And, if you get a chance to watch any of it, please give us some remarks. If you get a chance to raise something, we'll take them fives. If you can give it to us, we appreciate that stuff. But before I get in the show, I want to bring in my co-host for One Mic and see how they doing here on this great day. I'm gonna start with the youngin. We're gonna go with the youngin first. Darnell Kirkland Jr., how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm feeling encouraged. I'm feeling overjoyed. We got some breaking news. We're gonna get into it in the cipher. But yeah, this just an hour ago, the number one defensive tackle in the whole country is right in our backyard out of Belleville High School. He's going to Alabama. But yeah, that's just a great feeling of seeing talent coming up around the area, going to Penn State, Alabama, Michigan. There's a lot of potential around here. And it's
we're going to talk about that. These guys have been thinking about and trying to identify, those top football teams that we'll be hitting in the cipher here in the next 15 minutes that have found a way to progress and work things happen even in the face of a pandemic. And so they've been doing their research, and so we'll get into that. All right, we got my man, Mr. Cub over there from the South Side, the Hammer, Kyle Hammer.
Yeah, the prodigal son of the South Side. Well, yeah, I'm happy about the David Ross era began with the series win, and I'm so happy to see he's a leader, man. He's a leader. I knew he was going to be the pick when Joe and him parted ways. He understands the game, the new game, not the old school game, and I was a little worried about offense the first couple of days, but I ain't worried about it now. We bring it. So home runs galore, great pitching. So I'm excited. Especially this short season, I think the Cubbies could win this. Anybody can win this, but definitely I think the Cubbies can win this.
All right, we're hearing that Cubs stuff already. But, they got a World Series under their belt, so they're not the same old Cubs. They challenge it for championships. But over in Detroit, where I see Hank wearing his Tiger stuff, he's still holding on to hope. What's up, Hank? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I saw the Hammer's Facebook post. He had on his Cubby stuff with the tie. I mean, that was some classy stuff right there. I said, but you know what? I got to come with it too now. I said, I got to let y'all see, I can represent here, in the D. We look here. We've got 2 wins already. So like you said, it's a shortened season. So, it's something to be excited about, at least the first week of July. The season has started. That's something to be excited about. There is professional sports, team sports back somewhere. So that's something to be really excited about. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later in my Drop the Mic. But I'm excited. It's hotter than the 4th of July because it's the 20-something of July, and it's still hot here. So I'm excited about that. And we're just ready to go.
Well, hey, we are happy. I mean, it's, we have some activities with sports, and we're loving it. It gives us some more content to talk about, and we're loving it. We're loving it. All right, as we enter our open mic, we've been kind of having this theme around open mic with power to the people, and both the MLB and the WNBA opened their seasons up and had their tribute in support of Black Lives Matter in different ways. And so, as these sports begin to unfold, I love to get your feedback on what you saw both from the WNBA and for the MLB. I'll go back to you, Hank, a little bit, maybe, if you've had a chance to kind of see those. Obviously, I know you probably pay attention to baseball, but WNBA as well, in terms of how these athletes continue to recognize what's going on.
I appreciate the athletes. I appreciate what I really like right now is the solidarity that they're showing. We're seeing this happen You know, they had a panoramic view, I think it was of the Giants, I could be wrong, but everybody was kneeling at the same time. You know, those sort of things you wouldn't have seen maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. And so I appreciate just on the surface, before you even start talking about anything legislative, that they're using the platform right now to at least maintain and sustain awareness, you know, and just keeping it in people's face. So just the sports themselves, because I'm always liking back to Colin Kaepernick and just the controversy around one man trying to bring attention to all of this. And now you're starting to see at least some solidarity with the leagues. And that is at least appreciated. And whether you're the greatest cynic in the world, that is a step forward. That is better than what it was. It still has a long way to go. So just on the surface to start now, we have to see that to be sustained throughout these shortened seasons. But at least to start, knowing that everybody's eyes were on it, it was good to see. Yeah,
and it was really interesting to watch how at least the game I watched, the MLB, they all kneeled together and then stood for the national anthem, which was I think an interesting wrinkle to how they approached it. And like you said, had a sense of solidarity. There was a few of the players who still, I think, knelt during the anthem. But, you know, baseball, that I think we talked about before, is an opportunity during the pandemic for people to really understand who's in baseball. And I think baseball has been elevated. They have an opportunity to elevate, even when you look at their commercials around this issue and how they're positioning their players. So it's interesting with that. Hamp?
I agree with Brother Hank that it's wonderful, the solidarity of the brothers and sisters and our white allies, other allies are getting together and understand that Black lives do matter. But I think you know my background. You know, it took a man being killed on camera, murdered, for this to happen. So that's the cynic in me, and also the cynic in me is, again, I appreciate the advocacy, but the advocacy's got to be now in the legislatures, in the Congresses, the city councils. And that's one thing people sleep on. A lot of the policy that affects us is on the local level. It's not the people that look at it, the federal level, the county level. They do the bread and butter stuff as far as with racial equity. And really, a lot of things with racial equity start from the so-called bottom, you know, the grassroots, you know, where, you know, again, with city council. So I think that they're being strategic, and again, they're lifting this up and they're getting allies. But like I said last week, brothers, if you don't have a public policy agenda, even though it's good faith, it still is, you know, in a sense, similar. I'm not being critical of the brothers, I'm just telling the truth, because you have to have systemic changes to happen, and it comes from our, like I said, all branches of government. If you don't look at it, our courts are the most important thing. And that's really what we need to do, because we can pass all the laws in the world, even in the city councils, the county boards, the state legislatures, our national Congress Senate. But if the judiciary strikes it down, then it's for not, right? And so people have to understand, again, the big public policy agenda, not to be political here, but you know, November 3rd is one of the most important days in our nation's history. And people got to understand what's on the line. It's judges. It's ways that people get funded on the city and state level. And the final thing I'll say is that you see when systemic incompetency comes at the top, how it trickles down with fire down to the other branches. And so people who did not think government didn't matter, or things like, you know, they see now government matters on every way, just like Black lives.
And that's what I love about, you know, our sisters in the WNBA, to kind of get back to your point, Hammer. You know, more than just this Say Her Name campaign that really kind of focuses on Breonna Taylor and other Black women who have been also, you know, murdered at the hands of police brutality. They've been the most effective policies. When you think about what Maya Moore has done in terms of, addressing issues related to the judicial system. You have a number of those sisters who are focusing on some of those systemic policies, some even stepping away during their time and not playing this year. And when you think about the money that's being made by these women, when you're talking about they're sacrificing compared to even the men, they're really sacrificing resources and time and opportunity to do it. So, I know on one of my most recent podcasts that I did with the delivery, I talked about, and this is something that Hampton would appreciate, because Stephen A. talked about the importance of even, political action committees, PACs, ways that we kind of have sustainable strategies around, addressing some of these reforms at the state and federal level. So, that approach you're talking about, systemic kind of approach, I think is the next level, but I love the way that they are still keeping this out in front of folks. Get over here to Darnell, the youngster, the man who brings us that next generation view of it. I don't know how much you had a chance to watch openings in both these sports and, just kind of view, but what you've seen as baseball and the WNBA's come back.
I saw a lot of the same stuff. Solidarity, in actions. Kneeling for the anthem, stuff like that. I also want to add, I like to see what players in other sports like the NBA and like we saw with Michael Thomas. They're also stood up for the WNBA players when they had their debut, because everybody's talking about their rate of pay compared to their counterparts in the NBA, but trying to get those viewership numbers up. And I'm proud to see guys like Michael Thomas, John Morant, LeBron, and they're showing their support for the WNBA as well.
Yeah, I love that, getting the hoodies and everything else and the support just across. And, I think this is something that, I think is great, and actually going to be looking forward to when we have our next RC Live. We're going to be interviewing Damon A. Williams, who, he's at the heart of these kinds of issues, but I know he has a lot of opinions about this next generation of athletes and also the way in which they're working. So I'm looking forward to hearing his perspective. But thank you for sharing that, gentlemen. I know we're gonna have much more to talk about with that. But in the sports, we got stuff going on. So my man Lou Williams, the bubble, man, and I said, we talked about, my most recent delivery is talking about snitching. Right, I was like, this whole concept around snitching, but I think his boy sold him out picture of him in Magic City, Atlanta. I told you, ain't nothing good gonna happen Magic City, but he said he was going there. That's where he gets the food. Now, they serve food in those joints, but man, Lou, you going for a championship? All right, Hammer's over there laughing, man. Lou Williams, man, when you heard that, they gonna give him 10 days to quarantine. What were you thinking first? Sweet J. Lou, Hammer.
I was just embarrassed for the brother, man. I mean, it enforces all the stereotypes they have of us as brothers, that we lack discipline. I mean, especially someone like Lou, I give Lou credit. I mean, he came out too early in the old days, he made a career of himself as a great six man. This messes up. People remember him for this, first and foremost, and not remember how he came up from ATL and made himself into the best six man. And it's a shame. I mean, how stupid can you be to be taking pit photographs? Like I said, it might have been set up, but when a camera was flashing, I mean, come on, man. You saw somebody camera out. So, again, these brothers understand you got haters, man. You are at the pinnacle of life as far as, you're in a bubble being treated, like kings and getting great meals and also being protected from the virus with protocols. You gonna go to Magic City and make it rain? Like, I mean, come on. I mean, I heard in the real. I thought it was an Onion article, brother. I thought it was an Onion article. You know what? I was like, ain't nobody this stupid. It's like the dudes, like, I think I told you, remember the three-strike law, bro? It was in Cali, remember that law? You know what I'm talking about? The three-strike law?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I'll tell you a story now. Be quiet. The third strike with the three-strike law, it didn't matter if it was a misdemeanor or a felony, they put you in, jail for the rest of your life. And so this dude, man, this brother, man, stole a piece of pizza and went for life for a piece of pizza. I never forget it. And I was talking about, I was a young buck then. I was talking about Pops. I was like, Pops, this is a shame. Like, this is disproportional. This is systemic racism. How can they do this? And my father was like, son, do you know he's gonna get time if he had sold a piece of pizza? I was like, yeah, of course he knew. He was hungry. He's like, son, he needs to be in prison. Like, he doesn't need to be reproducing. We don't need people like him out here. We need. That's good. We need him. So yeah, it's the same thing with Lou, man. It's a shame, man.
Oh, Hammer, you killing me. All right, hey.
I don't understand. Now I got to be the old folks in the room. Okay? Now I got to be the old folks in the room. What I don't understand about these young folks is when we tell you to do something, we're not telling you because we ain't got nothing better to do. We telling you so that you can protect your crazy butt. We telling you so that you can have a future. We telling you because we know better. We telling you because we don't want to see you go down that path, where we see flames and fire and gas, and you got to come on the other side and you burnt the hell up, and we got to send you to the burn unit. There's a reason why we do these things. What drives me crazy about this situation is this young man does not understand the situation that he is in, okay? That he is so short-sighted that he does not understand the situation that we are in, all right? This is the problem. We can laugh and joke, but in order for us to play, in order for you to get paid, in order for all of these things to happen, you have to show a sense of discipline. We're going to do these things for you, but you got something you're going to do first. Oh, okay. And he goes right on out there like ain't nothing happening. All right? It's like, don't play in the street because you're going to get hit by a bus. You get hit by a bus, now you want to sue the bus driver. This is ridiculous. This is the kind of stuff that drives folks crazy. Okay? He doesn't understand that his actions alone could potentially, not that it's going to, but it could have potentially put the league in jeopardy because he goes out there, let's say he doesn't get caught, all right? Let's say he contracted the virus. Now he's got other players that's got to quarantine because of his selfish action. These are the kind of things that drives me nuts. And they're on the precipice of starting the season, all right? You want to scream out loud. This is why when I grew up, the parents took the belt off. This is why they grabbed the fly swatter. This is why they went out in the yard and got the switch and then slowly took off each little branch and had that thing about this long. I can't even make it on the thing, and whooped your ass from sun up to sundown because that's the only way you were going to get it. This is the problem right here. I'm telling you. I know folks want to just grab him and by the socks, take him to a bathroom stall and just throw him all around the doggone thing. Because it's frustrating.
You hit it right on the head. It's frustrating. And you got two teammates who are not quite back already. You're a team that's in contention. And you're a main player, and you're going to get 10 days right now as well. All right, Darnell, we got to get the young voice in here on this.
All right, so I know this is not the best decision to go to the strip club, but one thing I want to clear up. I see a lot of people saying he left the bubble to go to the strip club. I want to clear
he didn't leave the bubble to go to the strip club. He was supposed to go.
His dad did die.
Yes.
So he had to take care of some things. So I just wanted to clear that up because people say, oh, he left the bubble because he couldn't stand to be away from the strip club. That's why he. Well, yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I'm gonna let you go, but let me ask you a question. Where did he end up?
At the strip club.
Okay, so what difference does it make? He wasn't supposed to be there. See, that's the problem. That's the problem with you young folks. Y'all want to justify everything.
Trying to grieve in the strip club. Trying to grieve in the strip club. Trying to grieve in the strip club, man. Give me a break. Trying to grieve in the strip club. Are you serious?
Grown folks.
Are you trying to grieve in the strip club? Are you serious? They're taking your money. And talking about, yeah, pop, pass. They taking your
Where
money.
you end up?
You make it
I go
rain,
to
you know.
Darnell,
Hey,
and he trying to clarify purpose for Atlanta.
People
He
grieve in
didn't
strange
outcome.
ways.
He agreed.
Yeah,
Where'd you
grieving
end
in a
up?
strip club. It's
Where were you supposed to be?
Let's clarify his purpose.
That's right. What
Characters
time
as a
did I
black
tell you
man,
to
man.
come
That's what
on?
they. I'm happy, like I said,
told you to
we
come
together,
on before the
four brothers
street lights
together,
came on.
showing a positive thing, man. Lou Williams is ruining it all for us, man. They should suspend that brother. If you get the 10-day quarantine, get him out the league. And
What time did I tell you to come on?
You had a nerve to take a picture.
No.
I mean,
He
you know
ain't taking
you
a picture.
boo-boo.
They took a picture.
You know you boo-boo. You know
They
you
took the
boo-boo
picture and then they put it on Instagram and
You
they
know
deleted.
you boo-boo the fool.
Y'all. We
Yeah, that's like Laramie Tunzel. That's like Laramie Tunzel. Are you serious?
Here we go. See, boy. So Jamal Adams.
I'm gonna take a coat hanger to you. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a coat hanger to you.
Coat hanger.
My parents are passed, so they with me, so they can't get in trouble now. So you know, that's that.
Let's go to the next one. Jamal Adams was raising his thing. You know, he's raising it, and a lot of stuff is coming out about what was happening behind the scenes with, you know, the GM who had, made it look like they were going to offer him a contract and kept jerking back and forth and extending it. And then, you know, at a certain point said, you know, kind of went 180 on him and said, you know, we're going to wait until after season next year. We want to see if you're committed. Just some crazy, strange stuff. His head coach talking about he had been engaging in him and talking to him and had a good relationship with him. And it turns out that they haven't really talked since they had their exit conversation at the end of the season. And so Jamal had it. And then so he ended up with a trade to Seattle. And just wanted to get a sense of, obviously, whatever happened. The trade is up. You know, how do you think these teams are going to make out with this? You know, maybe I'll start with you, Darnell, in terms of this situation, your thoughts on, you know, what it means for Seattle, what it means for the Jets in terms of what they got back.
Well, it seems like the Jets, they're in a pretty good position if and only if they make good decisions, because they do get 2 first-round draft picks out of it. But the draft picks, they will only pan out as well as the decisions you make with them, because the NFL is not like basketball. You can still get top level talent in the end of the first round. Even in the second round, we saw plenty of guys go in the second round that have become great players. So if they make solid decisions, I think they have 4 picks overall for them, and they have a solid starter in McDougal at the safety position as well. So I think the Jets are going to be in a very solid position, and the Seahawks, it's self-explanatory. You got the best box safety in the league, and Jamal Adams, him alongside him, as well as Derwin James. It's a toss-up to see who is the best. But you pair Jamal Adams with Bobby Wagner. You still have KJ Wright. They make it difficult on a run game, and when you have the 49ers in your division, that's a big key to be successful. And I think they made the right move for them, and I think it's going to be good for both teams, possibly.
All right. Hank, your thoughts on that situation and how you think those teams are going to fare?
Well, I agree with Darnell here. I think it's a good move for both of them. I think you get 2 first-round picks for a premier cornerback or the defensive back. And the Jets, when I look at the story, you know, there had to be some conversation about having to pay him, and everything comes down to money. Okay, in the NFL, it's like, do we want to pay? Just the same thing that happened here in Detroit with Darius Slay. You know, they didn't want to pay him. Okay, so they figured out what can we do and what can we get from it, and do we move him now, and are we ready to win now? This move really helps the Jets a lot. But conversely, as Darnell said, you've got a premier defensive back, and you've got San Francisco, and you've got the Rams in your division, and this team, the Seahawks, was very close to the Super Bowl last year. They gave the Rams. I mean, they gave San Francisco fits last year. Came down to the last play of the regular season. I think they could have won the division. So it was that close. So this is a good move for them. But again, when you're looking at the NFL, especially you're looking at now where, you know, they would probably be on the verge of training camp, and they're going to make a move like this had this been normal times. Then it comes down to money. You're gonna see deals like this, but right now on the surface, I think it helps both teams.
Yeah, and before I go over to Hammer, I mean, I think one of the things Adam Gase is interesting how he's been able to position himself, how he got into the position where he's at, and what he's done with the work. And then you think about the GM Douglas. You know, it's good that I'll leave Hammer for last because I mean he's watch some of that craziness happen in Chicago, where between the coach and the GM and, you know, you could have all the picks in the world, but there's something about culture and about people players being able to trust you. You know, I know Le'Veon's come out and do some shots across the board, but, you know, it seems like there's something going on in that Jets culture that I think that is problematic, that leads back to what Darnell said about it's what you do with it, but it's also once you get them, do they trust you? And that's a big part about it. Hammer, when you look at this, you know, what do you see for both these teams?
I think it's a terrible deal for both the teams because I don't trust Adam Gase and Joe Douglas to make the picks, and then also Seattle. I mean, you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I mean, you got away with a steal for Mika Fitzpatrick, and you gonna give away 2 1s, a 3, and a 4 for Jamal Adams, who you haven't signed a contract to. So basically, it's like Jalen Ramsey. You have a gun to your head. You got to sign him to a contract. And then, yeah, you got Russell in his so-called prime, but Russell is 32 years old, y'all. And, you know, the NFL is not for long and one hit away. So I think it's a terrible deal. I was stunned that obviously it was a bidding war, but really they were bidding with themselves. I wouldn't give it, even if the price got that high. There's no way a box safety. We're not talking about Patrick Mahomes. We're talking about a box safety. He's one of the best, if not the best box safety in the league. He's young, comes from a pedigree. You probably know. Break it down to Darnell. His father was a first-round pick. This dude comes from a pedigree, and he's a great player. But will he mess up that locker room? Because Pete Carroll don't play. And then also, it's going to be a really bad look if you don't sign them. Because, I mean, you have to sign them because they got Jabavion. Well, yeah, I know. But let's say they don't, man. I mean, you don't know. I mean, people thought Dak Prescott was going to be paid. And
they can franchise
on the franchise. Yeah, so you don't know. So, again, I don't like the fact that I like the Seahawks got a great culture. And this brother, like I said, and see, he's been clowning. I mean, he brings it on the field. He's a great player, but you got Le'Veon calling him out. You got other people. So I think it's both. And then the Jets, you're right, they have a poor culture there. Their owner has been accused, accused of racist and unethical and sexist behavior. You have a franchise that's just been bankrupt intellectually since Joe Namath days. And so I think it's both bad deal for both clubs because you're going to overpay for Adams. You're going to have to pay him top dollar. You don't know how to be the coach. And you got a 30-year-old quarterback. I would rather have gotten a more impact player than a box safety. I'm sorry. I'll give you the last thing. I'll close out like this. Eric Reed got cut from the Kansas City Chiefs. He was one of the best box safety, and they let him go.
He was the best box safety. Eric Reed.
Yeah, in the league. Eric Reed, yeah. Okay, we're gonna have another argument.
I want to address the locker room aspect too. I want to address the locker room aspect.
Go ahead, brother.
I think it seemed as if the locker room was going just fine until I think Jamal Adams' issue was with respect because when his name was brought up in those trade talks early on in the year, that's when things started to go left. We seen this stuff with Ray Allen.
He can't get traded there now. He can't get traded. I mean, it's a business.
He's the best player. He's the best player on the team.
Got traded. Joe Montana got traded.
Joe Montana was 107 years old.
He got traded at the end of his
he was
career. You're
170
not
to the
going to trade.
playoffs.
Joe Montana
Let
Darnell finish his point. Let him finish his point.
Go ahead.
What's your point?
No, that pretty much was my point.
And I want to build on that because some of the stuff coming out, at least out of the reports I was looking at, was about the locker. One of Jamal Adams' issues was with Gage and the way he handled issues. That he refused to handle issues. He would delegate it to his assistant coaches when there were time to address issues at halftime or where a coach would normally step up and do it. He would leave the room and then an assistant coach would have to deal with it. So there appeared to be a lack of leadership in the locker room. That was the reports that were coming out of it. And so, if one thing you learn, in my sense, is that these issues are going to continue in New York. Right now they're being dumped on Jamal Adams. He's going to get over to Seattle and just do his thing.
I agree.
And those issues are going to still be existing in New York because
I agree.
he never felt comfortable with Gage as a coach and a leader. He doesn't look like he had issues. The way they handled their GM stuff and the role he played with that, it just feels very sticky there. But we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and the thing was,
Hank, why don't you say something before I wrap this up? Let Hank say something real quick. Let Hank say something.
See, my feeling, why I think this is good, because you also got to look at the track record of the Seattle Seahawks. We've got a very good track record of bringing over players and developing them under that system with Pete Carroll. And they are trying to win right now. Saying what Hammer said, not for long. They go and get a box safety in his prime right now. They've got a chance to win. They think they got a chance to win. If you watch the game against San Francisco last year, they couldn't stop a lot of stuff down the field, especially with the tight end. So this is a good move for them. Now, you go back to what do they draft one? No, they don't need to draft one. They've got the young man. They're trying to win right now. So this is what I'm saying. If you're looking at the team like the Jets or the Lions or somebody, yeah, they got a draft for the future. But those guys may not make that draft because if they're screwing up, in the meantime, here's Seattle to feel like they've got to try to win right now. And if your Super Bowl champions are the Kansas City Chiefs, you better get your defensive backfield ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say one last thing, D-Will. Oh,
go ahead. Say me one last thing. Make it quick.
No, I'll be quick. With the cap going down, Hank, it's a terrible deal because you have to pay him $2020 and 2021 disaster as far as the cap. So it's a terrible deal. And you got to sign him to a crazy contract now because you gave up all the picks for him. Crazy deal.
I think, again, when you look
my
at the
sense
team,
is that they give every indication that he's going to sign it. My sense is that probably as he signed, the agents and them, they came agreement in the background for Seattle, and that deal will get done. Seattle will give you that deal. So that deal will get done. My sense is that there's a commitment behind the door. They got a sense of what the deal going to look like. They just need to be able to pull the trigger on it. Because Jamal Adams said all they had to do was come to me and say, hey, we're in this situation. We need to really figure out how to get some players around him. He was just looking for straightforward conversation and communication that wasn't happening. So Seattle's done some of that work.
Yeah, and his problem with Le'Veon, like you guys brought up the issue with the locker room, but his thing with Le'Veon was he recruited Le'Veon to come over there. So Le'Veon, his issue with him was, how you gonna recruit me over here and then leave? I don't know if they really had big problems before he requested the trade.
Yeah,
it's a business. That's why it's a business. Brother Darnell, it's a business.
Yeah. Yep. And Le'Veon knows that because that's how he got to where he could do that in the first place. Yeah. All right, we're gonna close out the open mic. That was a great conversation, fellas. We're gonna get to the cipher. College football has. They're going through a lot of crazy stuff. They're trying to jockey. They're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to have a fall season. You got the conferences who are deciding that they're going to just play conference-owned games. There's a lot going on. But in the midst of all that in the pandemic, there's still some teams hustling. There's still some teams, elite teams, moving it, making things happen with recruiting and everything else, even in the midst of all this uncertainty. And so, I wanted to have you guys highlight maybe one or two teams that you see that are continue to make progress even as we have uncertainty about whether or not college football is going to be played. Darnell was a big component, so I want to get proponent of having this discussion. So I wanted to maybe start out with him and let him get into the docket before I go to the other fellas.
All right. So with me, the teams that are winning, there's really two big teams at the top: Alabama and Ohio State. Ohio State, for the matter that they got guys to commit, and Trevion Henderson and Evan Spencer and some other guys that they have never even visited the campus before. I mean, if you have that kind of pull to get guys to recruit, to get guys to commit without even showing up on campus, that is a big thing, especially in the era of a time where there's no on-campus visits and you can't get guys on. You guys have to push. So Ohio State, they jumped out to a huge lead when the pandemic first started. And Alabama has been on their trail in the last 2 to 3 weeks. You've seen they signed J.C. Latham. They signed the Brockermeyer twins. They signed Terrence Ferguson. And they signed a guy today out of Damon Payne out of Belleville. They have 4 blue chip offensive line commits in the last 3 weeks. And then the number 1 defensive tackle today signed. So Alabama's building things like I was telling you in the text chain we had last week. Football is built from the inside out, and the way Alabama is building things, I think they're showing us that, and we're going to see this on the field. This is the way to build a football team.
That's the old Jim Finks, right? When he was with the Chicago Bears, he talked a lot about that, the strength of building your teams from the inside out. Hammer, who do you think, or have you had a chance to pay attention to college football, and who do you think is getting over, or who do you think are making moves?
I mean, I definitely agree with Brother Darnell. It's Alabama, Ohio State. One sleeper, and we talked about this kind of as a preview, is Iowa. Iowa's got some big-time recruits because of the continuity they have with Kirk Ferentz. I mean, the thing that people criticize Iowa about, that Kirk Ferentz has been there too long, has actually helped them in the global pandemic because of their brand and because of their connections. They're able to build and get some top recruits. And in my understanding, their recruiting campaign basically is 24 years of Kirk Ferentz. So the thing that everyone thought was his albatross, his Achilles heel, is actually his strong suit in the midst of the pandemic, because people now are going to go with the thing that's the sure thing. Is there nothing about you talk about Alabama, Ohio State? They got, I mean, inside out, like I said, like Jim Finks, not like Ryan Pace, inside out. And so they know the game. They know they have they're flipping cats from other schools to Bama. So I give them the props as far as, those are 2 things. But I was going to surprise some people with the recruit they came in, because they got stability. They got Lorenzo's son there. Even with the situation with the strength coach who got fired, they still are bringing it in. So that tells you how powerful Lorenzo is as far as recruiting game goes. Someone who I'll be blunt, was not as good as his predecessor, 85, but recruiting is behind off.
He's Mr. 85. You're right. You can't even figure out. Sometimes you look at the end of the season, you're like, how do they lose those 5 games? Right? Just because what you said, they always have talent. They always have guys who are getting drafted, and you're thinking, how did they lose those 5 games? But you're right. I mean, when you talked about this, I was just so surprised, because you think about, like you said, I mean, in this day of being woke and, the voices and all this stuff that's out there, and Iowa's been on the front page about the history. I just saw another one about a running back counting, the experience of black athletes in the program, black football players, and for them to continue to still win in terms of the recruiting game says something. I mean, to me, that's an amazing.
It's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business. That's what it tells you. Even though with the bad track record, they can still say, hey, we can get you the league. And the league is not for long, as Brother Hank said, 3 years, and could be less now with coronavirus. So you won't go with a short thing in Iowa. And even in Iowa's got one of the worst graduation rates of black athletes in the Big Ten, and yet they still are getting people because they're still in the NFL. Not for long. Plain simple.
All right, Hank, we'll bring this up a little bit. Who are you? What do you see? Anyone you want to add to this, or who do you?
Well, you know what? I want to comment to, the big stars are going to be the big stars, regardless of the circumstances. and that's your Ohio States, that's your Alabamas. Okay, I'm with Hammer. I'm surprised, it was especially in the news of Iowa, but who I haven't heard a lot from is Clemson.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, I know Dabo's been catching a little bit because of what's been going on with a lot of this racial tension and thing. And so I haven't heard a lot about Clemson. Clemson was usually right there in the mix somewhere, but they've been kind of quiet. I can say personally that I'm somewhat, you know, impressed with what's been going on over here in Ann Arbor. I didn't expect them to do as well as they've been doing. But as far as on the national stage, you know, Clemson has been really quiet. I want to know, you know, right there in the heart of Dixie, how they do in the midst of not just coronavirus, but also racial tension. And they're one of those teams, you know, and Dabo has, you know, has been known to say some stuff to get himself in trouble. Another team I just kind of want to watch is Oklahoma State. And that's because their coach had on a hard right a T-shirt. Yeah. So
One American Network.
Yeah. So, yeah. Exactly. So I kind of really want to see where they go this year and see what happens with that team. That's another one just to keep an eye out on.
And when you look at like 24/7, you look at their rankings. They have Georgia in terms of right now class, Alabama 2, Clemson 3, LSU.
That's last year.
Is that last year or this year?
That's 2020. You gotta look at 2021.
What do you got right here?
Yeah,
I was giving you. I was leaving this one open for you, Devon. But I didn't know if we were gonna bring it up.
Well, we got Ohio State, Alabama, then you got Oregon. Here you go. That's how I was gonna bring it back to you for Oregon. No. And then Tennessee.
You still ain't get it. You still ain't get it. North Carolina, University of North Carolina. You have Mac Brown.
I told you, go ahead and talk about.
He's on the move. Yeah, Mac Brown. He's on the move. He has position coaches like Dre Bly. He has brought in the number one.
Yep.
Yeah, the number one defensive back recruit in Tony Grimes has committed for the 2021 class. And I tell you what, because Virginia, the state of Virginia, has shut down their fall sports, he has decided to reclassify, and he's going to play for North Carolina this year. So they're really making big strides at North Carolina.
And North Carolina up there, which is incredible. But, you know, if you know Mac Brown, he's incredible. He's charismatic. You put him in a living room. He gets the right people around him. But Tennessee, I mean, Tennessee 4 is like Tennessee has struggled, right? You think about that as a program. And it was a story program for a long time. But to sit here and look at Tennessee sitting at 4, SC is at 6. And Michigan's at 8. Clemson's actually at 9. So
yeah.
Clemson. And then Miami at 10. But you're talking about after the class, Miami at 10 as well. So you're talking about Miami's building up a little bit here, but Tennessee at 4.
Yeah. And there's one thing I want to bring up about Clemson. I don't know if we're gonna ask the question on who is losing during the pandemic.
That's what I'm saying.
I was definitely gonna say Clemson because they have this. Because Dabo Swinney has this hard, fast rule, right? Because once you're committed to Clemson, you can't take no other visits, man. If you're committed to Clemson, you're committed to Clemson. They're very confident, you know, in their abilities, and they only give offers to people that they really, really want. So they say if we offer you, we really want you. So we're not gonna have you go out and go somewhere else, and that really hurt them because when they did that thing with Jordan Hancock, he flipped to Ohio State. The number one defensive end in the country, Corey Foreman, he was committed to Clemson. He decommitted because he wanted to take other visits, so he decommitted. So that hurts their standing. So they've had a few guys leave the class. So they're not necessarily doing as well as Alabama and Ohio State and North Carolina and even Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee. Tennessee, at Jeremy Pruitt, he's selling the division because Jeremy Pruitt, he's another guy that's off of the Saban tree. You have Kirby Smart in there. You have Nick Saban, and he's selling that he has the vision to take Tennessee to the next level. And even though they might not have the talent on the roster right now, if you commit to Tennessee, you're going to be a part of that change. And he's really selling that, and it's really working for him right now. We just got to see
And
where.
Coach Farmer's helped out too, though. Yeah. Coach Farmer's helped out too, as far as it goes. Yeah.
And what's interesting is Georgia's at 16. I mean, you're talking about falling off. I mean, Georgia's at 16 right here. Wisconsin's at 15. Georgia's at 16.
Georgia's getting a lot of – I don't know. But Georgia's getting a lot of those transfers.
I said, where's Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Notre Dame's at 14.
Okay.
With the transfer portal going on, Georgia's eating off of that. They had JT Daniels coming from USC. They had Jamie Newman coming from Wake Forest. They have guys coming in, and they also had the #1 recruiting class in the country last year. So
part of their issue you're saying is that, people are seeing that depth chart and they're like,
right. There's like, can I get the playing time that I want?
Yeah, which is an interesting thing. I would think Texas, given what we're having, really preaching about staying home, with the uncertainty, would be able to, maybe marshal a little bit more success than they have. But I know you mentioned Oregon, Darnell, as one that you like what they're doing in terms of building from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wanted to maybe share a little bit of your thoughts on Oregon.
It's not just this class, but in the collective last 2 or 3 classes, they've really been building from the inside out. You have the #1 linebacker, Justin Flo. This guy is very talented. You got to watch his highlight tape. He plays with a different kind of passion. He reminds me a lot of the guy we talked about earlier in Jamal Adams. He's just a bigger version of Jamal Adams, pretty much. And you got him in there. You have Noah Sewell, which is the brother of Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell is the #1 offensive tackle coming out in the draft this year. So you're building this thing from the offensive line, a highly talented offensive line. And the defensive line as well, you have Kayvon Thibodeau, which is the #1 defensive end from last year. You pair him with Justin Flo. You got Noah Sewell coming in. They're building stuff on the front 7 and also the offensive line as well. So I think that's a different touch than the old Chip Kelly days of Oregon, when they had DeAnthony Thomas, when they had Michael James, when they had guys that were just speed track guys on the outside. They're trying to outscore you all day, but when they play against the Auburn, when Auburn had Nick Fairley in the crew, when they played against Ohio State, when Ohio State had Joey Bosa in the crew, they couldn't hold up because, like I said, football is one from the inside out, and you need the core of the football team to be strong to succeed.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting the way in which some of these programs leverage technology. The way in which they connect people in these spaces. How they provide some kind of the virtual tour and the virtual production. In ways that these young folks who are digital natives can engage. And you think about a place like Oregon, it's always like ahead on the tech side, ahead on leveraging all that, creating the virtual experience. They might send them some goggles or something like that. They can look and see themselves actually playing or something like that. It's going to be interesting to see what wrinkle people add to their recruiting strategy with these young folks, given that it's harder for folks to get to campus for these official visits. It's going to be interesting to see, like, with some of these teams that we haven't heard from in a long time, like you say, what Jeremy Pruitt's doing in Tennessee, and how this pays dividends. It's moments like this where you have a shakeup in people's routine. One of the things we always say in higher education, HAMP understand that, transition is an opportunity for people to either gain power or lose power. We always say that. Every time a answer change or a president change.
That's what Damon Williams says.
Yeah.
That's what Damon Williams says, yeah.
And you seeing teams are going to get better and figure out, and it might be an opportunity for somebody to burst in there and get momentum coming out of the other side of this. But we see some programs, kind of rising up.
And one thing I want to say is watch out for Michigan, because next they have this kid coming in, J.J. McCarthy. I really like this kid's attitude. He's out of IMG in Bradenton, Florida. He is the #1 quarterback in his class, and he has that attitude that you love to see. Like come with it.
Yeah.
He said I'm the best, and he wants to prove it. And a lot of the two on guys on 24/7 and stuff like that, they believe he's the best as well. So, and that's one thing Michigan's really been lacking lately. They've had guys with the ratings like Shea Patterson. Shea Patterson was the number one in his class, and it didn't necessarily work out that well. But if JJ McCarthy can take over the offense, you could see something different down in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about and even when I'm looking at Wisconsin, you're seeing many more 4 stars. They had a top quarterback come in last year.
5-star OT last year. 5-star offensive tackle. Logan Brown.
5-star offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Because people are realizing that, coming in those spaces translate to what y'all are saying to the next level in interesting ways. And so where a lot of those programs maybe had gotten offensive linemen, or they may have gotten some others. Now they're starting to get some of these skilled players as well coming in and seeing what that does in terms of a shift of power. But I'm going to be excited. We don't know if the season's going to be played. Just saw that Oklahoma push up their opening game a week so that they can get it in. Things are evolving. We'll see what happens here soon. But once they get on the field, it looks like some of these programs have loaded up with some youngins. And some of these cats you might can see right away this year as we work our way through this pandemic, y'all. Thanks for sharing this. We're going to come back and revisit as we look at this. But what we've got to do. As we close out the cipher, we got to hand it over to my man, Hank, to drop the mic.
Thank you, D. Listen, guys, this week started the beginning of Major League Baseball. The season started. Hallelujah and hallelujah. And let me just be the old folks in the room again, and let's just reflect back that in a normal season, we would already have had the All-Star game. In a normal season, we would be on the verge of the trade deadline. We would know pretty much how the divisions would have lined up. We would be looking at who's going to be buying, who's going to be selling, and who's in the playoff hunt and who's not. That's what happens in late July in baseball. But this is a different July. This is where the season just gets started. Now, I'm going to say this to the Major League Baseball, all the teams, not just the Cubs, not just the Tigers. We're pulling for you, not just baseball fans. We're pulling for you to succeed. Baseball, you have to finish the season. Baseball, you have to have a playoff. Baseball, you have to crown a World Series champion in 2020. NBA is watching, the NFL is watching, the NCAA is watching, the NHL is watching. You are the beta test for every sports out here, every sports organization out here. Because if you fail, if you can't get it done, my God, where can we get it done? Baseball. We are not just rooting for you from our home stadiums. We're rooting for you from our hearts. We're rooting for you from our heads. We're rooting for you spiritually. Baseball. You are in a must-win situation, and you've got to get it done.
Log Talk
Peace.
Radio.
This thing right here is for my peoples in the streets.
Yes, today.
Log Talk Radio.